I'm working on finishing this table saw cabinet, but I found that my clamps are going to be a little too short, and I still need to clamp this side on. Because I am about 30 minutes away from town, I don't have the option to go out and buy longer pipes. So I'm going to improvise with wafer board. I'm going to show you how you can make extensions for your clamps that will work in a pinch, and if you use a better material, will last for a lifetime. This will allow you to have more pipe clamps and use these little extensions when you really need something that's longer. And before anyone says anything, I know that you can double up clamps like this and make them work, but the problem is this works usually really well horizontally if you have something flat on your tabletop. It's really difficult to hold everything up and tighten it down with these bar clamps like this. If you're in an emergency situation like I am, I'm going to show you how you can make these really quick. Let's get started. The materials that I'm using for this started out as a 48-inch by 24-inch piece of wafer board. I cut it down to 30 inches and then made them 4 inches long. The sixth one is actually going to be a little bit smaller because of the kerf. So I cut all of these at 4 inches, and then again, this is going to be the leftover. This is probably about as cheap as you can go. I got this whole sheet for $5. But if I were going to do something a little bit more permanent, long-term, I'd probably either go with something a little bit thicker or maybe even use OSB, which is going to be a little bit better. But trust me, as a clamp, this will work just fine, especially in a pinch if you really just need something really quick. I know that they make I-beams out of this, so I know that it's incredibly strong along the surface here. We're going to make a single hole on one side, and that's what we're going to use to clamp this to the carcass of whatever we're doing or whatever that needs to be clamped. The hole that we make towards the end of the edge needs to be big enough that we can fit our F-clamp in. And this is, I think, 1 1/8 inches, maybe 1 1/4 inches. And we should also be able to almost close the F-clamp where the two pads are touching. And this is so that we can clamp this up to the end of the stock, the carcass, whatever you're clamping. If this were too far from the edge, we obviously wouldn't be able to clamp it up. So we really need to make sure that it's as close as we can get it. I'm going to make this easy by using a marking gauge and just marking straight down the center, which is going to be at 2 inches. In this project, it's going to be okay to use a tape measure. I'm going to start on this end, and this will be the hole for my F-clamp. I'm going to put a mark right on the 1.5 inch line. On the opposite edge, I'm going to go in 3 inches, and then every mark after that, I'm going to go 6 inches. So I'll start at 6, 12, 18, 24, and that should be good right there. Like I said, the hole down here is going to be 1.8 inches, maybe even 1.25 inches. And these are going to be 2 inches, and I'm going to be using Forstner bits to drill all these out. And I don't want to take a long time doing this, so I'm just going to stack everything up and drill it all out. With this little gimpy piece, I'm just going to try to center it here and then place this on top. You'll need to clean out the hole as you go, as the wafers will clog up your Forstner bit. Now I'm switching to a 2-inch Forstner bit. And this fits the head of my pipe clamp. With these cut out, and especially in an emergency, you could take this straight to your project and start using it. But because the clamp faces aren't rounded, you're going to be digging into the edges here like this. So you can see mine, I used it one time and I've already created this little bit of a breakout here. We can preserve these by creating D's out of these instead of these circles that we have. Since my clamps will be on this side, you can see the smaller hole on this side. I'm just going to come in here to each one of these holes, right on the edge here, and I'm going to place a mark that's about the size of my diameter of my hole. I won't worry about the last hole because this bar is so thin that it just sits inside the edge of the hole and it's not going to be a problem. For clarity, I'll use a straight edge and mark the top and bottom. Probably the easiest way to do this is to drill a hole and then use a chisel to clean each one of these up, but I'm going to use a jigsaw to cut this out. The fallacy of jigsaws, at least for me, is the bits aren't very long and they rarely ever cut straight. So as I go down, probably right about there, it stopped being accurate. So I'm going to take my first one, place it on the bottom, and cut from the bottom up. With these now finished, this will fit in there really nicely and it'll prevent it from getting damaged. Wafer board is really weak if we bend it like this, but again, like this, it'll give us some really good holding power. So let's go ahead and try it out. To use this, I'm going to slide my clamp in like this. I'll put this on the edge, clamp it down. Now I can hook the clamp head into the end like this, and now I can turn this to tighten it up. As you can see, there's just so much strength. You can see that I'm actually bending that side of my cabinet, obviously more than I want to do it, but I'm just trying to prove a point that this is incredibly tough. That's a fairly large bend right there. And again, I'm just using some 1/4 inch wafer board. Incredible stuff, but I do recommend using OSB instead. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I have to get back to this project, but please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this. Please also thank my patrons for keeping everything free. And remember to keep making things.